Okay, now we started the project. Now when you say a shell scripting, okay, so where do we do shell scripting? Okay, so whenever you are doing a shell scripting, where do we do it? Okay, so shell scripting, or we also say it is a bash scripting. Okay, it is also called as bash scripting. So where do we do this bash scripting? Bash scriptings are generally done on your Linux based operating system. Okay, so Linux based operating system, I think you might have worked on, right? What is a Linux operating system? Have you ever worked? Okay, okay, so let me tell you. Okay, so 95% of the organizations, okay, use Linux as enterprises. So all your DBs applications are deployed on Linux systems, right? So they are deployed on your Linux based systems. So these Linux based systems have an inbuilt feature where you can automate various tasks. So whenever a Linux systems come into picture, so mostly Linux would be command line interface, CLI. Okay, so they will be command line interfaces where you will be writing command to achieve your set of actions. So whatever set of actions you want to perform, they will be performed using a command line interface. Okay, okay, so if you have seen the banking systems, your Android devices and various cloud platforms, you will see Linux as a very common operating system that are available there. Okay, so Linux is that very common platform that is available for anyone. But when you are doing a bash shell scripting, so bash shell scripting is not something like any other programming language where you can compile it and save it in the system. Okay, bash shell scripting would be based on a particular type of actions that you want to perform. Okay, so it is not compiled like if you know PLC code or something where you compile it on the system and then you keep running that or keep calling it. But in the bash scripting you have to run every time it, so it is not compiling and storing it anywhere, but it is just going ahead and storing a file which have a set of actions. Okay, storing a file which has a set of actions. Okay, there are set of actions that have to be performed, that is written inside a script or what we call it shell script. Getting it? Okay, so now when you have these shell scripts, so these shell scripts are working same way in various kind of your Linux systems. Okay, so Linux systems you might have heard of Red Hat, RHEL, CentOS, or you can say OEL, Oracle Enterprise Linux, and then you have another domain, Ubuntu, Linux Mint, and then Arch Linux, and there are various Linuxes. Okay, so there are various Linuxes, but the important thing is whenever you are writing a shell script, that what type of bash I am going or what type of shell I am going to use for writing my scripts. Okay, so what you will do, you have to make sure that the bash shell scripting is written on a Linux based platform only. Okay, it will not work on your Windows platform. Okay, Windows you have a separate entity called as PowerShell. Okay, but for bash scripting or the shell scripting, what we say, it is on Linux based platforms only. Okay, so all these are Linux based platforms where you can write a script and it will run on any of these environments. Okay, any of these environments it will go ahead and run. Now for this course, if you want to, so you have multiple options for lab. Okay, if you have a laptop, so you can install, means I will tell you how to install a Linux system on VirtualBox VM. What do you call it? VirtualBox. Okay, you can install a Linux system on a VirtualBox. That is one option if you want, if you have a laptop. Or let's say you have a very basic laptop, no RAM, no space you have, then you have also option of any cloud provider. You can pick any cloud provider, right? AWS, GCP or Google Cloud, Azure, or any XYZ cloud, Oracle Cloud. Any cloud you can take. They provide you free account. You can register for a free account and provision a machine. Provision a machine in cloud. Okay. And even if you don't want to install on a laptop, then we have one more option of Vagrant boxes, which we can use directly. Vagrant pre-built boxes. So any of these options you can choose. So whichever option you want, I can help you setting up the Linux on any of these environments, whatever you want. Okay, so you have multiple options here. Getting it? Okay, so you have to have a lab, so you can choose any of these. Okay, so which method do you like prefer? Do you want to install on your laptop, desktops, or how you want? You have that, like at least it doesn't need more than 2 GB of RAM, free RAM if you have 2 GB. Okay, fine. Okay, so you can use that. So important thing is simply just download it. I think if you are aware, VirtualBox, there is a tool called as VirtualBox. Okay, so to download this tool, what you have to simply go ahead and do, just go to virtualbox.org. virtualbox.org. Okay, so this is a free tool. It doesn't need anything specific. It's totally free. You have to just download it based on your operating system. So I think you would be on Windows based system, so you will download the Windows platform one. Okay, I don't use Windows, so my systems are Linux based systems, so I download Linux one. But for you guys, Windows host will be the platform, and you see it will start downloading. So I will cancel it. I don't need this. So this would be the Windows platform, and you have to simply click on the executable that is downloaded, and it's a simple typical Windows next screens, and it will install a VirtualBox on your system. So once the VirtualBox is installed, you will see something like this. So this is a VirtualBox that is installed. Clear? Okay, and once the VirtualBox is installed, okay, you can download any type of operating systems. Okay, whichever operating systems you want, you can download and install it in this VirtualBox. So I will show you. So let's say if you want to install an Oracle Linux, or let's say Ubuntu or something, you can download any of those. Okay, so I will quickly download an Ubuntu system because that is small. Okay, so you have to just go to the ubuntu.com. Okay, so there are specific desktop versions also which you can directly install on desktop, or you can simply download the smaller versions also, will be here. Okay, so just a second. Yes, so it will go ahead and start downloading. Okay, then remove it. Okay, depending upon that, it will go ahead and download it. Or you have options like CentOS, Oracle Enterprise Linux, any specific operating system you can install, whichever you want. Okay, so if you want most of the environments, if you want any RPM based environment, so you should prefer to download CentOS or Oracle Enterprise Linux, or if you want any Debian based, so you can use Ubuntu. But both will work for the shell scripting. It doesn't matter like if you download Ubuntu or if you download any of those specific platforms. So I am going to use Oracle Enterprise Linux because I have already ISO file for that, so I will show you. So what I do, these are the ISO files. Okay, so this is for Oracle Enterprise Linux 7, this is for Oracle Enterprise Linux 8. Okay, so if you want to know how to download Oracle Enterprise Linux, again that is also free. It's come by Oracle organization, but it is still free. So what you have to do, you have to go to your Oracle eDelivery, just search for Oracle eDelivery site. Okay, and the first link will be the Oracle eDelivery, and if you are new to it, just create an account here, okay, with your personal mail ID. It doesn't need any official mail ID, just create with your personal mail ID. Once you are done, click on sign in. As soon as you click on your sign in, you have to enter your user ID password that you would have created. So I have already an account, so I will just simply click on sign in. And it will take you to this dashboard. So here you will mostly get most of the Oracle products. So if you want to go ahead and search for Oracle Enterprise Linux, just type OEL. So OEL is the Oracle Enterprise Linux, which is free to use for your production systems also on corporate level. Okay, so you can download 8 or 7, but I will prefer download 7. It is smaller in size, 4 GB. This will come as 9 GB. Okay, so you go ahead and click on continue, and if you don't want to download, you can use any of the cloud provider, and you have to select 64-bit environment here, and once it takes that 64-bit, the continue button would be enabled. You have to click on continue. You have to just accept this license agreement. Click on continue, close this feedback, and you just have to click download the first file. So click on this number, you will see, and as soon as you click, it will start the downloading. So what I have showed here, it will start downloading the same file, the 9001. Only you need this file, you don't need anything extra, and that's it. You just need to download that and sign out. Clear? Any doubts in this? Yes. So Oracle, you just have to register. Go to eDelivery oracle.com, and you can simply register it for free from your personal mail ID. It doesn't need any corporate or official mail IDs. So you can freely download it. It's free to use. Anyone. Like if you don't want Ubuntu, but I will prefer download Oracle Enterprise Linux because most of the environments you will see, they will be RPM based. They might be using Red Hat, Oracle Enterprise Linux, CentOS. So RPM based environments are more used. So that time you can use this Oracle Enterprise Linux. So whether you work on CentOS, whether you work on RHEL, whether you work on OEL, they are same thing. Only the logo you will see difference. Everything will remain same. No changes. Okay, and Ubuntu based are also like the scripting and other parts, commands will remain same. Only thing is how they are going to manage the packages and everything, that differs in Ubuntu based systems or the Debian based. They are actually Debian based. Okay, so once you have downloaded, just you have to sign out, and that's it. So your download would be completed. Now if you see here, so this will be downloaded here, the file. Okay, so I will just quickly rename it to OEL 7.9 ISO. Okay, so now what you see in my system, right, this system is also a Linux based system only, Linux Mint that I just now told. Okay, so this is also, so even I don't have to install anything, I can directly go to my and start doing the shell scripting here. Okay, but better you install a separate system where you can do all your Linux scripting related stuff. Okay, so though that you don't have to use any of your normal systems and you will have a segregated system for all your Unix scripting specific stuff. Okay, now once the ISO is downloaded and your virtual box is ready, okay, so you will see something like this when you are opening the virtual box manager for the first time. Clear? As soon as you open this, what you have to simply do, you have to go ahead and click on new to create a new virtual machine. So what is this? This is a virtualization tool where you are creating a virtual systems. Okay, if you have heard of virtual systems in your normal day-to-day activity, so what is that virtual system? What does that mean? Any idea? Okay, no. Yes, yeah, that's correct. So it's like a, when you say there are two type of things that you will heard, a physical server and a virtual server. Physical server means that you have set up a server, or normally you have heard of bare metal servers. So where you have set up the server directly and you are directly using that resources. But what happens in real time, many times, like, you don't need the whole resources together for a specific system. Like, you, let's say you have a very big system of 128 GB of RAM, some petabytes of storage, right? Even if you install one system there, still there would be lot of resources that would be free. So normally organizations or even various companies, what they will do, they will use any type of hypervisor. Okay, so such hypervisors, what they will do, they will simply go ahead and use specific resources from your main host system. Okay, so now in our case, the main system where I am installing this virtual box, that was the host system, that is my Linux Mint, or in your case it would be Windows. So Windows would be your host system, and on top of it you are provisioning a virtual system. So that virtual system will pull up the resources from your host system. Okay, so this virtual system is also called as your guest system. Okay, these are called as your guest system. So that will simply pull up the resources directly from your host system. So let's say if your host system has a 64 GB of RAM or 128 GB of RAM. So now in this virtual of the guest system, I can give it 2 GB of RAM, so that it will be needing only 2 GB, it will keep using that one, and in case in future I want to increase it, I can simply easily increase that resources from my host system, because my host is still having some 64 GB, and out of 64 GB I am only allocating 2 GB here. Okay, clear? Okay, so you have to just simply write any name you can write. So I will say shell scripting class. Okay, so any name you can give, whatever you want, how to identify. So it is just an identifier. So when the machine gets created, you will see the list of machines here. Okay, and where do you want to create that machine? So that would be the space. So in your case it would be C drive users. Okay, because my host system is also Linux, so that's why it's showing you in the Linux format, but in your case in Windows it would be somewhere like your C drives. Okay, and then type of operating system would be Linux, and what specific Linux you are going to install. See, there are various options: Arch, Debian, Fedora, Oracle. So I will select Oracle because I have downloaded Oracle 64-bit environment. Okay, so most of the new systems are only 64 bits. 32-bit systems you will not get. So click next and see, it will say what should be the memory size of the system that you are going to install. So total, this is my just lab machine which has total 4 GB only. Okay, so maximum how much you can give? So normally give it based on this bar. If you see this bar till the value where the green is there, right, that is the safe zone. That till here it's fine. If you go beyond this, that means it will consume more resources what your host system needs. So your host system will start degrading the performances. Okay, so don't go beyond the green slider. Okay, based on that you have to select it. So Linux systems will not need very high memory uses, so I will keep somewhere around, let's say I will say 1500 here. So you can type also what value you want. Okay, and click next, And then next thing what it will do, it has to have a disk also, right? So because it's like you are creating a new system, or it's like a new laptop, you can say, or desktop. So you need to have a disk also where you will do the storage. Okay, so all the storage will be done on your disk. So I will say create, because this is the first time, create, select VDI, that is fine, and dynamically allocated. So what does the benefit of this is that it will, let's say I am giving 100 GB space to this virtual machine, but it will not utilize whole 100 GB at the same time, right? It might use over the time, you might load data, it will start installing applications, the data will come, and eventually it will increase. So in dynamically allocated, it is not going to use all space at the initial time of creation. It will use your host system space only when it is needed, and the maximum limit would be what you have defined. If you are doing fixed size, so fixed size means that it will hold or reserve that 100 GB for your system only. The 100 GB will be reserved and you will not be able to use from your host system. Clear? Okay. So now dynamically allocated, fixed size, click next, and then you can define what size you want. Okay, so I will keep it default 12 GB. I don't need more than 12 GB. Even you can reduce it. Okay, so that will be the maximum space that you need. And see, there is the VDI file. So this VDI file is very important. You shouldn't lose this. Okay, so this VDI file would be created in the same folder that earlier we have seen. Home Himanshu VirtualBox VM cell scripting class. This is the name of the machine that I have given, and this is the VDI file. If this VDI file is gone, it's like your hard disk. If your hard disk is crashed or you delete this file, you will not be able to start this machine. So whatever content was there inside that machine, that's gone. Got it? Now click on create, and you can see a new machine is showing up here, right? The first machine is shown here. Now this is the first machine that is shown here. Now there are certain settings that normally we do to make it more easy to work on this system. So first one is the network settings, how this system is going to connect. Okay, so first adapter, just select as bridge adapter, and bridge adapter means if you want to access internet on this system, then you use bridge adapter. If you don't want that, okay, I don't want any internet to be enabled here, so you can select host only adapter. Okay, normally, so any of these two adapters you can use, bridge adapter and host only adapter. Okay, so bridge adapter is the one from where you will using internet. So this bridge adapter will bridge the internet between your host system and the guest system. So for that specific reason, the next thing what it is showing you, it will be your specific adapter name. So in Windows it would be showing something like the Intel Realtek driver or some Intel Gigabyte drivers. That is your Wi-Fi driver if you are using Wi-Fi. Because my Wi-Fi runs, see, this Wi-Fi is running on this specific driver or this adapter. So that's why I'm selecting this. If it was running on my Ethernet or LAN port, I would have selected this one. So whichever you want to use, you can use that particular adapter from where your host system internet is running, whichever adapter. Clear? If you want to use internet. If you don't want to use internet, so you don't need this. Clear? And the next adapter is enable. So I will use one host only adapter also. That will be used for connectivity between the host and guest. So it is something like your intranet. Okay, it will be an intranet network between your host and guest. Clear? Okay, so two adapters I will select. Normally only one is needed for training and everything. Bridge only I told if you want some internet access or you want to download some files from internet, so you can use that bridge adapter as well. Okay, apart from that you don't need much. Just go to Journal, Advanced, and Shared Clipboard bidirectional, and drag and drop bidirectional. You can do it. Okay, but we will not going to do anything related to Linux system, so leave it as it is. And if you have processor, see, if you have more CPU, like I have 8 CPUs, so I can increase the number of CPUs, so the performance will increase of the system. Okay, so you can increase the number of CPUs whichever you want on that particular system to run. So I will use 2 CPUs right now. Okay, so if you have more CPUs, again the same thing applies here. Don't go beyond the green zone. Don't go to the red zone. Okay, so processor is important and network is important for the connectivity. Clear? So see, the number of CPU means the number of threads will increase, right? So whenever you are going ahead and doing any parallel processing, right, or multitasking, right, why you want, okay, these days phone are coming, right, octa core, quad core, right, that it has 8 cores, it has 16 cores. So what is the benefit of those cores, right? That means the multi-threading or the parallel processing are done at the same time, right? So those particular threads will do the task parallelly. So that's why the phones or the devices that are coming, right, they are having multi-tasking very easy, right? That, okay, you can open multiple things at the same time, you can do multitasking on the phones, but it is done very easily because there are a number of cores that are handling those tasks. Okay, so now if I show you here, I will click OK here for now. Okay, and if I go ahead and show it on my direct system only. So if you see here, so there is a command, I will tell you later, top command, okay, in the Linux systems, any Linux system you are using, top. So what it will do, see at the top it is showing you how many processes are running, what are the specific tasks running, what are the zombie, and see the CPU it is showing me total CPU utilized is 7.3%, right, or 6.6, it is changing depending on real time. So it's a real time. Now if you see Chrome, my Chrome is using 66% of 54. Now this is showing you the detail of all the CPUs. Let's say if I want to see individual CPUs, right, so what I will do, I will press the number 1 on my keyboard. Okay, this is keep running, I will just press 1. So see, as soon as I press 1, now it has started showing me individual CPUs, what they are doing and what are their tasks. Okay, and what they are doing, how much utilization is there for each CPU. So total 8 cores are there, 8 CPUs are there here, and they are doing specific tasks. Okay, so the same thing you can monitor from any GUI also. So if you see it here, so see I have 8 CPUs here and they are doing specific tasks. See, these are the 8 CPUs what they are doing currently. Clear? Okay, so I will close this, and Q is for quitting out of the top window. Okay, top is a real-time monitor. Okay, so if you want to come out of top command, you have to press Q. Okay, I will come again back to my VirtualBox. Now this system configuration is ready. That, okay, I have configured the system that what it should be. So it's like you have configured your hardware. That, okay, this is the hardware that my system is going to take from your host system. Okay, now the next thing what it is going to do, next thing is that I have to go ahead and install it. Okay, I have to go ahead and install the system. So what you do, normally in laptop or desktop you attach a pen drive, USB for a bootable system, right, or you put, earlier we used to insert CD or DVD to install the operating system. Now this machine or the hardware is ready, now I have to install the operating system. Okay, so what we will do, go back to the settings and go to the storage. So first you see here this CD icon is there which is empty. So this is like a CD mount that I have to attach my CD here. So what I will attach, I will simply go ahead and attach my ISO that was downloaded. Okay, so where I will go in the downloads and I will see, okay, I have to use OEL 7.9 ISO, I will download it, open, and it will install or attach that particular ISO to my system. Clear? And okay, so it is like inserting your CD drive, and click OK. As soon as you are done with this, it will start the system. So I have to start the system. So if you see here the boot order, first it will try to boot from floppy, then from your optical CD drive that we have attached, and then from the hard disk. Hard disk would be last. So because there is from the hard disk there is no bootable system installed, this is a fresh hard disk, so we cannot do anything, so we have to use the optical one. So it will first check for floppy, no floppy will be found, so it will go to the optical device. So when I click start first time, so it will ask you what should be your startup disk. So my disk would be your ISO image that I want to boot from. So I will click start here, and see this will be your screen that will come, that what you want to do. So I will be going ahead and installing the Oracle Linux 7.9. so you have to use arrow key. Okay, so you have to use arrow key. So you see the one that is I am selecting is highlighted. Okay, so I will go back to install first one. So it is a little bit more brighter white, so you have to select this, hit enter. Okay, leave this. This will be based on Intel hardware, that is fine. So this will start the installer. So it will be a GUI installer, so it will not be much of a worry here. You see this will be a GUI installer that is shown here. Now if you see, this is the Oracle Linux. So if you are using a CentOS Linux, the logo here would be a CentOS Linux. If you are seeing a Red Hat Linux, here the logo would be Red Hat Linux. Only that change would be there. So you can select what language and what thing you want. So this will be coming for the first time when you are doing it. So I will say capture. Just a second. Okay, just I think the system has hang. Just a second. Okay. Just give me a moment. Let me till now any doubts here? Okay. You have to have a system. See, you have to have a system. Either that's why I said you can use AWS free tier cloud account or Google or Azure, whichever you want. Okay. Or if you want on your system, you can install on your system. Okay. So you can use any methods whichever you want. So I was just showing that how you have to go ahead and do it on a system if you want to keep on your system. Okay. Or cloud is also easy if you want to use cloud. So any of those methods you can use. Okay. There is no hard and fast. Only thing is that you need to have a Linux environment where you will do shell scripting. Okay. Because shell scripting is for Linux based environment. So you have to have a Linux environment where you will be doing that shell scripting. Okay. Just a moment, let me show you again. Okay. So once the Linux system is there, then you have to connect to that Linux system. Okay. So that I will tell you what is a shell or what you actually have to go ahead and use as a shell for connection to that particular Linux server. So we use PuTTY or terminal, whichever tools you have to use that particular tool for connecting to that Linux server. Okay. So whenever you are connecting, so you might have used PuTTY in case. Have you ever connected to? So you have to use PuTTY or such tools to connect to the Linux systems. Once you are connected to Linux system, then you will start doing the shell scripting part. Okay, so that's why in first session only I am covering everything, so that your lab is ready. So whichever method you want, you can go ahead and start completing that lab setup. Okay, whichever method you feel feasible for you, use that method. Okay, or if you want for any other method, AWS or cloud, you can let me know in case you get confused. Okay, just a second, let me share my screen. You see, I will just decrease in here. And I will start what I was telling. Let's see. Please. I will install it. No, recording is there. That is from a different system. This is my just lab system that I have connecting. Okay, so I am sharing from my lab system. Okay, so this is my, okay, capture it. So first time if you are doing it, your mouse might get stuck inside this. Okay, you will see mouse not coming out. Okay, so you have to press right control key to take your mouse out. Okay, it will, else it will capture, and click next, continue. So see, it will, all these things will be right now gray. So wait for some time, it will automatically detect most of the settings. Okay, so automatically it will detect most of the settings. So I don't want to make much changes here, so I will keep it minimal. Okay, and the local media, if you want to change to date and time, the region, let's say you are on US or something, you change it from here. Okay, because we are not going on Linux admin, that's why I am not telling this. So only important is network, how we are going to connect to the network. Okay, so as I told, we have taken two adapters. Okay, bridge adapter and the host only adapter. So what I will do, I will configure it and make it automatic. So first adapter, whatever first adapter, because first adapter I have given bridged, that was for internet. So I don't have to set any manual IP. I have to just select automatically connect to this network when available and save it. And that's it. So automatically this network would be connected. But the second IP will be the static IP that I will align to my specific host. Okay, or this server, the shell scripting server that I am creating, this machine for the shell scripting class. So I will configure it with a manual IP. Okay, so what I will do, automatically connect, and then I will go to IPv4 settings. So rather than automatic, I will select manual, click on add, and put your IP address 192.168.56.101. Press I will say 71, let's say. Yeah. Okay, so this IP, how I have reached to this point that this IP has to be given, I will show you. So this will be IP, anything in this range 192.168.56.71. So in this range you have to give anything. So I have given 71 as my IP, save it. So this will be my IP. I will be using this IP for connecting to this system, and I will change the host name. So I will say shell, I will say sh, let's say OEL 7 shell.lab. Okay, so I will give it a name. Host name is something on your network that easily identifies. So I will not use localhost. so some name that would be easily identified, and apply it. Okay, sorry, I have no underscore here. Okay, OL7 cell lab, apply. Okay, once apply, you have to just click on done. So this is completed, so you don't have to do anything else. Only thing is you have to select automatic partitioning, and you will say it will automatically partition your device. So I will say click done, and that's it. So everything is now in gray color and fine. There is no red warning sign anywhere, so it is done, and you just have to just click on begin installation. So I am doing minimal install. I am not doing any maximum install. I am just doing the minimal install just for a Linux system for our shell scripting sessions. I will say begin install, and it will ask you what should be the root user password. So you have to give it, at least root user password you have to give. Oracle 123. I will give any random. So normally I will use Oracle 123 for the lab sessions. So you will click next. Because this is a very weak password, so what you have to do, you have to click 2 times done and done. So you have to remember that password, don't forget that. Okay, so this way your root password is set, and now the installation would be done. So total it is installing around 330 packages. Okay, so let it install. Clear? Any doubts here till here? It is the partitioning, like in your Windows you do, right? You have, let's say, 1 TB of hard disk. You might create C drive, D drive, E drive, right? So same way in partitioning, it will partition the file system based on Linux. In Linux it is not C drive, D drive. It starts with a root file systems. Okay, so that is the partitioning. I will just show you one on my main system. If you see it here, df-h. So this is the partitioning. Everything will start with slash here. We will come to it, what it is called, what is the absolute relative path during shell scripting session. But these are the paths. So these are the file systems it will create for setting up. Okay, so there is the file system type that they actually create in Linux based systems. Okay, it's just like comparing with your CDE drive, how many you want. Okay, you can make many drives or partitioning depending upon that. Okay, but we are not doing that, so I will leave it as it is. So once your system is ready, then next thing what I told, you have to know how to connect to that system, right? How you are going ahead and connecting to that system. So to connect to that system, what you have to use, you can use just a second. Let it open. Okay, so we are here. I will save this. Okay, so once my box is ready, now what we have to understand, whenever you are working with any Linux based environments, okay, so where is the shell? Okay, so what I will do, I will show you with an image. So the first thing is your kernel. So in any Linux environment there is a kernel. Okay, that kernel is interacting with the hardware. The kernel interacts with any specific hardware, whatever hardware is based on that kernel is sitting on that, and that is interacting with the hardware. Then on top of it, what is there? Okay, then on top of that kernel we have your specific, this kernel is only your main Linux. Okay, so don't get confused. So if someone says Linux operating system, that is basically the main kernel, what kernel is being used. Kernel is the code that is being built. Linux is the combination of kernel and other packages together called as Linux. Okay, now the next thing outside the kernel is your shell. Okay, shell will interact with your kernel, and then kernel will interact with the hardware. Okay, so it's not like that you directly are doing anything on kernel. Okay, so whatever we are doing or whatever we will be learning, that would be this shell programming, this yellow icon here, right? So whatever it is doing, it is a shell that is going ahead and sending the commands or the actions to the kernel, and that kernel will interact with your hardware. Clear? Okay. So this is the shell scripting that we are learning. Then the next level for like advanced users, you have kernel scripting as well. That is a different thing, where you are building a Linux systems. Okay, that will come under kernel coding and kernel, where you will understand the hardware and everything, how to interact with the hardware. That will be kernel scripting. But here we are the shell scripting, how we have to send commands to the kernel and how the kernel will process it and revert back. So that is your shell. So this we are at this level. Then on top of it you have normally you will get your applications. Okay, any applications, whatever applications you are calling, whether it's a GUI based or command line based, that application would be called. That application internally calls the shell internally interacts with your hardware resources or the hardware whatever is there. Okay, so that application will be on top of it. Clear? So let's say if I am using this Chrome VirtualBox, so if I go to my specific terminal, if I go to my terminal and if I just search, don't get confused with the command, I will tell you later during shell scripting. CHROME, Chrome. Okay, so you will see this Chrome is running here, Chrome tabs and everything, Chrome processes are running, so they are running, that is an application, but the end of the day it is running and sending the commands via shell to the kernel only. Okay, so if something crashes at the hardware level, it will not be able to work on that. If I kill it or if I kill these processes here, it will stop working. Clear? Okay. So this is the whole application, and this is the layer that we are going to learn, the yellow one. I hope this is clear. Okay, so now when you connect, so when we say, okay, when I am connecting, so when I connect to Linux system, so you are connecting to a shell actually. Okay, whatever you do via putty and everything, you are connecting to a shell. So for connecting to that shell, what you use tools like, first is your putty. If you are on Windows, putty will work on Linux based systems also. Then second, if you are on Mac or a Linux based operating system, not on Windows, then you will use terminal. Okay, this is the terminal that I am using. This is a terminal tool that is used to interact with the shell. Okay, so this is the tool that is interacting with the shell. So putty can be used in here. I'm not sure in Mac, I don't think it is there, but on Windows and Linux you will get putty. Terminal you will get on Mac and Linux based systems. Okay, so these are inbuilt tools. Putty you have to download separately, but these terminals are your inbuilt tools with your Linux or your Mac based systems. Clear? Same way, like if you are connecting via some Android devices, okay, Android tablets or devices, there is a applications called as Juice SSH. So this is one of the popular one, Juice SSH, which you can use to connect to your shell on the Linux system. Clear here? Okay, so you have to give your host name or the specific IP where the Linux server is running, and that will connect and open up a shell for you. Okay, that will be a connection to that particular shell on the Linux based systems. So this will be your application that will connect to the shell, and then whatever commands you will be writing in this shell, that will be executed at the kernel level. Okay, so if you don't have any of these tools, Putty, you can download and install it again. Putty is also easy, like it's directly, you can simply, just a second. Okay, so if you go here, so all these are open source, you can easily download without any problem. Org, putty.org. So it will take you to Putty, and you can just download it from here. Putty. Okay. There is one more tool if you want to use a little advanced whenever you are working. That is called as MOBA Extra. It's for your Windows only. Windows only. Clear? So this will be used for Windows based systems. Clear till now? Okay. So for today, so like it's almost 9. So for today, like prepare your system. Okay, prepare your system for today's assignment. Okay, prepare your system, whether you want on cloud, whether you want on your normal laptop desktop. Do it. If you have any doubts, what I will do, I will create a group on WhatsApp. Okay, so any doubts you can ask. So any of you, if you both have done, any of you have done, so you can ask, anyone can reply. If we both are confused, then I will reply. Okay, if you are not getting anything. Okay, so you will go ahead and get that from there. And if you are confused in installing VirtualBox or something like that, you can go here on YouTube. I have created in my channel, I have small videos for those specific stuffs if you are confused on those things. So search for that channel, sudo for. Okay, so you will get here. So how to install VirtualBox or anything, you will get videos here, or how to download it, how to install CentOS and everything. So you will get videos based on that. Okay, if you are confused. But mostly if you have any doubts, we can cover tomorrow also, not an issue. Okay, so once the system is prepared, then tomorrow we will start with the actual commands on your shell, that how that commands work and how we have to use them. Okay, and then you will understand that the system, how the system you are working on. Clear? So this is your assignment 1. Assignment 1. So this is for today's assignment. Okay, so this one will also install by tomorrow. So I will do all the sessions in this machine only. Okay, and then you already know, right, WinSCP or anything, you know how to copy files from a Linux server to your Windows system. Okay, I will tell you tomorrow. Okay. I will tell you, so not a problem. Okay, so I'm taking from basics, like if you have never done it, then also it will be easy for you. Okay. Okay then. So I will wrap up the session for today, and we'll meet tomorrow 8 a.m. Okay. Yes, I will share you. I will put it on a Google Drive link, and just once I create a group, I will ping you. Just give me your Gmail ID, so I will give you the access, so you can access it directly. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.